ITV's new season 83, a top film for Tuesday at 7. The return of the Pink Panther with Peter Sellers.
He's the Charles Phantom, the notorious Lytton.
The Phantom?
Yes, one and the same. His calling card.
Tuesday at 9, meet a wrestler called Bloomfield and a private eye called Billy Gibbs.
Hello, Billy.
Billy's in trouble with the Northern Mafia, but Bloomfield's to the rescue. A violent and disturbing encounter that's destined to bond them.
I get the kiss of life, and it has to be a packy.
After the news, The Rules of Marriage stars love-torn Elliot Gould.
I cannot bear your saying there's something wrong with us, as though it's some monumental kind of crisis. Well, there is no crisis, and there's no problem.
The Rules of Marriage at 10:30, right after the news. New season programs for Tuesday night on ITV.
And a reminder at 10 o'clock this evening, there's music from that great American showman. It's Liberace in concert at Copenhagen.
This little girl pays income tax. She saves with the Building Society, where income tax is automatically deducted from her interest. While with Lloyd's Young Savers account, she'd receive her interest in full, without paying a penny in tax. The Black Horse Young Savers account from Lloyd's.
Treat me nice, treat me good, treat me like you really should. 'Cause I am made of wood, and I do have a wooden heart.
Next time you dust, spray on Pledge. Its real wax formula shines and cares for wood.
Treat me nice, treat me good, treat me like you really should. 'Cause I am made of wood, and it's Pledge for my wooden heart.
Pledge treats wood good.
Kentucky Fried Chicken are doing an amazing deal for families right now. The Family Feast. You can take away 8 pieces of chicken and 4 portions of chips for just $3.99. So you can feed a family of 4 for £1 a head.
The Kentucky Fried Chicken Family Feast.
And with a bargain like that, you just can't go wrong.
This year, why not go on an OSL holiday? With an OSL villa, you can stretch out inside or outside by the pool. You can stretch out in the bedrooms or in the garden. You even have an OSL maid service. And if you book now, there's no surcharges. Ooh, lovely. So you won't have to overstretch your budget.
With the villa and apartment experts, you'll have an OSL of a good holiday.
So this is where the grown-ups tire themselves out every night. Who's the star tonight, then?
It's Charlie Williams, Flower.
Well, do you think you could ask him to cut it short tonight? Then Dad might get an early night, take us on a sailing lesson tomorrow.
We could ask him.
Thanks. Oh, and could you get me his autograph too? I'm one of his biggest fans, you know.
Warners. It's never too late to have a happy childhood.
You're going to like this. Quite a lot. The Wimpy Home Buyers Bonanza. It's pure magic. Take these gentlemen, for example. First-time buyers get a guaranteed 100% mortgage. Great. But they pay no legal fees, no survey fees, and no stamp duty. So... And second-time buyers can trade in their old home. But that's not all. You'll get free carpets and curtains with a choice of 18 colour-coordinated schemes like this, or this, or this. With 8 kitchen schemes like this, or this. Even 8 bathrooms. Sorry, sir. And if that's not enough, every month Wimpy are giving away £100,000 in real money. Every new Wimpy home buyer has a great chance to win £1,000, £5,000, £10,000, or even £25,000. How's that for a welcome home?
This is Thames from London. Now the national news from the studios of ITN, presented by ALASTAIR Stewart.
Reagan sets up nuclear commission to push through MX. Saudis block Pim's visit in row over PLO. Dutchmen gamble $1 million to save North Sea ferry. And it's uphill all the way in the final test. Good evening. President Reagan has set up a new all-party commission to review America's entire nuclear weapons arsenal. It will also recommend on what to do about the MX missile. The President said the fundamental objective of the Commission will be to preserve an effective deterrent while moving forward with negotiations to reach equitable and verifiable arms reductions. The Commission will have 11 members, including Alexander Haig, the former Secretary of State, and Harold Brown, Defense Secretary under President Carter. It'll be chaired by ex-President Ford's National Security Advisor, Brent Scrowcroft. He said tonight the final recommendations may not support what President Reagan wants. But our diplomatic editor says President Reagan has assembled a group who generally believe America's nuclear weapons should be upgraded. A favorable report from them would significantly improve the chances of getting MX agreed by Congress. Meanwhile, the Russian leader, Mr. Andropov, has arrived in Czechoslovakia for a Warsaw Pact summit, which is expected to concentrate on nuclear arms. 44 Greenham Common peace women were freed today when they appeared in court, charged with causing a breach of the peace. They'd been in custody since the invasion of the base on Saturday. The women will be in court again in 6 weeks.
Supporters of the peace campaign had slept outside the court all night. As the time for the hearing approached, they joined hands and sang one of the favorite songs of the peace movement, "You Can't Kill the Spirit." 72-year-old Nell Logan, who because of her age was the only one of the defendants not to be held in custody since their arrest, said she wished she could have been with the others as they arrived in police vans. The adjournment hearing took less than an hour, and one by one the defendants emerged to the hugs and kisses of their friends. For many, the issue was that the Greenham Air Base had proved so easy to invade.
The fact that women have actually gotten into the base, have actually gone to what they call a top security area just by putting ladders against the fence and climbing over, it just makes a mockery of the whole security of the place. And I think, you know, and actually just going into the silos, which is where the cruise missiles are going to be placed, I think it's just incredible.
It all ended in song. The question to be decided now is whether or not the invasion of the airbase constituted in law a genuine breach of the peace. Norman Rees, ITN at Newbury.
And Mrs. Shirley Williams of the SDP tonight urged America to take up Russia's offer of nuclear talks. She also said Britain must have a veto on the use of the American cruise and Pershing missiles here, but she opposed unilateral disarmament. The Foreign Office has confirmed that Saudi Arabia has called off a visit there by the Foreign Secretary, Mr. Pym, because of a diplomatic row over Britain's relations with the Palestine Liberation Organization. The Foreign Office Minister, Mr. Douglas Hurd, said the Saudis told Britain the timing was not right for Mr. Pym's visit. They're angry at Mrs. Thatcher's refusal to meet an Arab League delegation that included a PLO official. And a Saudi government minister, in a letter to the Times today, called for Arab countries to retaliate with trade sanctions against Britain.
With its talk of inconvenient dates and possible visits later in the year, the Foreign Office has been trying hard to hide its blushes over this very public diplomatic snub to Mr. Pym. The problem concerns the Arab League delegation, here seen in Washington, which has been doing the rounds of the 5 permanent members of the Security Council, supposedly to explain the recent Arab summit at Fez to them. The Soviet Union, China and France allowed the inclusion of a member of the PLO. President Reagan, always mindful of his relations with Israel, did not. So the Arabs have been putting pressure on Britain to receive the PLO, thus increasing the pressure on the Americans by making them seem the odd country out. Well, Britain wouldn't play. Though in the past, Mr. Hurd at the Foreign Office has received someone from the PLO, Mrs. Thatcher told them that if they wanted the propaganda coup of stepping inside Downing Street, they'd have to give something in return. Namely, a promise to give up terrorism against Israel. What's now puzzling the Foreign Office is why the Saudis, with whom Lord Carrington did a very public and successful fence-mending act 14 months ago, after the death of a princess row, should have reacted so violently, and indeed so strangely, with today's letter to the Times from the junior Saudi minister saying that the recent humiliation of an Arab delegation coming to Britain should not go unpunished.
In Lebanon, 30 people have been killed and 50 wounded in the Syrian-controlled city of Tripoli after fierce artillery battles. It's the third day running there's been fighting there between pro- and anti-Syrian factions in the city. Britain's fishing dispute with Denmark could run into legal problems. Common market officials in Brussels have disclosed that Britain's measures to ban the Danes from fishing near Britain's coast haven't yet been given official common market approval, though they have been agreed in principle. RAF Nimrod planes, as well as fishery protection ships, have been on patrol today, but heavy storms in the North Sea have so far stopped the Danes from fishing inside Britain's 12-mile limit. Today's patrol spotted only French trawlers sheltering from the rough seas. It looks as though the Danish Euro MP, Captain Kent Kirk, will be the first to test the fishing ban. He's planning to sail from Denmark tomorrow for the coast off Newcastle.
Even the huge ferry to Newcastle was making heavy weather of leaving port today, and the few trawlers that tried to get out to sea soon came hurrying back. Danish fishermen say it's unlucky to leave port on a Monday. Nevertheless, last-minute preparations continued on board the 150-ton trawler owned by Euro MP and fishermen's leader Kent Kirk, who'd said he would set sail today for the English fishing grounds, where he expected to be arrested and heavily fined. He's going to need a lot of those supplies. The trip has attracted a score of journalists who will pack every inch of the tiny boat. But even for the enterprising Captain Kirk, the Force 9 gales proved too much, and he broke the news to the somewhat reluctant sailors of the press corps that the trip was off until tomorrow.
Weather forecast is very bad.
You think it'd be too much for us, do you?
And for me.
Although the papers here are taking a serious line about the possibility of conflict, the cartoonists are still having a field day. These British paratroopers are seen being told, "Don't worry, chaps, the Danes have no exocets, but they do have a lot of stubbornness."
A Dutch salvage team have started work on Townsend Torreson's ferry European Gateway, which capsized off the Essex coast a fortnight ago. The operation's a gamble. The Dutch team are investing more than £1 million in the venture with no guarantee of a return.
Dutch salvage director Nan Halfweg was at sea today as his men started work to salvage European Gateway. His company, Weissmuller, signed a Lloyd's no-cure, no-pay contract on Christmas Eve. The hull is insured for over £13 million, but salvage payment will be decided on market value by an arbitrator. And one significant consideration is how much of the ship's equipment can be put into working order once again. It will take a month to get everything ready to pull the capsized ferry upright, and this is how they plan to do it. 8 strong points will be fixed to the ship's side. Heavy hawsers will lead out to a working platform anchored firmly to the seabed. It should then take 48 hours to win upright, when the holes will be plugged and shall be pumped dry. But bad weather could delay everything.
It's very exposed, and there's no shelter against northeasterly winds. It's being winter season. We do expect a few difficulties.
Is there danger it might break up before you do it, or not?
Not in its totality, but since the accommodation is open to the most severe weather, if we get bad weather, it will certainly damage the accommodation and the superstructure.
So for at least the next 6 weeks, up to 50 Dutchmen will be living out here in the North Sea, working to salvage the 4,000-ton freight ferry European Gateway. Desmond Hamill, ITN, off Felixstowe.
And as gales continue to sweep the Atlantic, fears are growing for the American sailor Wayne Dickens, who's not been heard of since he set out from Massachusetts 59 days ago to cross the Atlantic in his 9-foot boat. But in Australia, the British yachtsman Richard Broadhead has turned up safe and well. He'd been missing for about 50 days. He was towed into Sydney in his cutter Medina in the round-the-world single-handed yacht race. His radio had packed up, his mast was damaged and his engine failed, but Broadhead is still 5th in the race. Soccer, and Liverpool are running away with the First Division title. They beat Arsenal 3-1 this afternoon to go 10 points clear at the top. 10 matches were played tonight. In Division 1, Watford 2, Manchester City 0. In Division 2, Burnley 1, Middlesbrough 1. In Division 3, Southend United 1, Exeter City 1. In Division 4, Bury 1, Northampton Town 1. Crewe 3, Stockport 0. Darlington 2, Bristol City 2. Halifax 3, Torquay 0, Hereford 2, Aldershot 1, Port Vale 2, York City 1, and Swindon 2, Scunthorpe 2. England's batsmen have made a bad start in the Sydney Test, which will decide the Ashes. They finished the second day on 76 for 3, thanks mainly to 38 not out by David Gower and 21 not out from Derek Randall. Before that, they'd bowled Australia out for 314.
It's Ian Botham who helped England fight back from the frustrations of yesterday. Hughes was his first victim, well scooped up by Cowans.
He's out. Yes, he caught it for sure.
Then, much to his somewhat pained surprise, Botham caught hooks off Hemmings' bowling.
And he's taken a good catch there. That's well bowled by Hemmings.
It must have been niggling for England to see the increasing assurance of Dyson, the man who should have been out yesterday before he'd scored. 79 runs and 5 hours after that controversial incident, Hemmings finally claimed Dyson's second life, abetted by Taylor. Border, who'd also been given a second chance when he was dropped on 15, was making the most of his escape.
Jeff Cook at backward square leg.
Botham landed Lawson with a salmon-like leap that would have dumbfounded his many critics in Weight Watchers.
Just when you say they need a breakthrough, he dives.
Border's determination hauled Australia past 300, despite the tightness of the bowling. But when he was joined by Thompson, any thoughts of their Melbourne crusade being repeated were quickly snuffed out.
Beautifully caught.
If England thought they'd bowled themselves back into the match, it was a shame they had to bat as well. Lawson soon shattered their illusions and Tavares' stumps. When Hogg found the edge of Cook's bat, Chappell grabbed the ball like it was the Ashes urn itself. It might just as well have been, as Lawson's speed left Lamb strokeless, scoreless and stunned. Jeremy Thompson, ITN Sport, Sydney.
Everything to do, as they say, but they might yet do it. That's it for now. Next from ITN, the news at 1 tomorrow. But from me, for the time being, a very good night to you all.
Now the weather, and tonight will be cloudy with some outbreaks of rain. It will be mild at first, but later the rain will die out with clear spells developing, allowing temperatures to fall to around 6 degrees centigrade, 43 degrees Fahrenheit by dawn. And that's the end of the weather forecast.
From Zanussi comes Washcraft, engineered for at least a decade of economy and real reliability. How else could Zanussi offer you the optional protection and peace of mind of 5-year cover? Washcraft and 5-year cover from Zanussi, the appliance of science.
All right, it'll look okay when they finished it.
Bill, them stones are a monument to civilization.
Quite right.
I never knew they had a bit that went down great like this. Hey, read notice.
These stones were placed here in 25 BC.
Kept well, haven't they?
Wherever you may wander, there's no taste like stones.
Harrods sale starts this Friday, cutting the cost of £1 million of ladies' fashion and shoes by half, cutting the cost of £500,000 of sports clothing and equipment and weigh-in fashion by half. Harrods sale simply cuts the cost of gracious living, starting this Friday.
Harp Winter Warmth Bargains, 1982 prices held, plus no deposit finance with nothing to pay till August 1st. Ring 464-6575. Now.
This year, why not go on an OSL holiday? With an OSL villa, you can stretch out inside or outside by the pool. You can stretch out in the bedrooms or in the garden. You even have an OSL maid service. And if you book now, there's no surcharges. Ooh, lovely. So you won't have to overstretch your budget.
With the villa and apartment experts, you'll have an OSL of a good holiday.
All Christmas pictures developed at Boots are great value. For example, disc prints only £1.49. Boots, so much more to value.
Treat me nice, treat me good, treat me like you really should. 'Cause I am made of wood, and I do have a wooden heart.
Next time you dust, spray on Pledge. Its real wax formula shines and cares for wood.
Treat me nice, treat me good, treat me like you really should. 'Cause I am made of wood, and it's place for my wooden heart.
treats wood good.
The shape of this car isn't just a designer's dream. It was honed by the wind. The new Ford Sierra. It's one of the most efficient, aerodynamic, driver's cars ever made. Test drive the new Ford Sierra yourself. It's man and machine in perfect harmony.
Nescafe for the trip.
That isn't Nescafe, Julia.
Well, I know it isn't called Nescafe.
So it won't be. Nescafe don't make coffee for anyone else. This could only be Nescafe's blend of 3 types of the finest coffee beans. Only their special roasting gives the richer, smoother flavor anyone could recognize.
Any chance of a coffee?
Nescafe coming up, George.
She's got the message.
Remember, Nescafe don't make coffee for anyone else.
For ITV's new season, tomorrow, Elliot Gould in The Rules of Marriage.
I cannot bear your saying there's something wrong with us, as though it's some monumental kind of crisis. Well, there is no crisis, and there's no problem.
Would that you were twins. Hey, none of that, pal. If she were, I'd be married to both of them.
Those are my mother's earrings. What are you doing with them? I found them.
What?
She found them in her father's bedroom. I don't want you to go, Dad.
God, I love my kids.
Elliot Gould plays the emotionally torn father in The Rules of Marriage. Part 1 tomorrow at 10:30, with Part 2 at the same time Wednesday on ITV.
And meanwhile, tomorrow evening, over there on Channel 4, they're presenting a big feature film that was made in 1977 and stars the one and only Miss Elizabeth Taylor in a little night music. Speaking of music, we've got that now, courtesy of a certain Mr. Liberace.